Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar. I'm Abhijit, head of Targetorate Consulting, a digital-focused go-to-market firm serving clients across the globe. I'll be the host for this webinar. And along with me is my friend and guest for this webinar, Venki Sharma. Venki and I operate in the same space and actually mean it literally. So we live in the same building in the Mumbai. We share the same portion of the ocean, and then so in other words, we view the world through the same lens actually, and of course he shares the same level of passion for marketing as I do. Venki, thank you so much for joining in today. Uh, can you also take a moment to introduce yourself so that the audience knows you a little better?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Abhijit, and great to participate in this webinar today. I'm Venki Sharma, and I am a marketing and digital AI consultant. Um, Prior to this, I built agencies, digital agencies of scale in India and elsewhere, and I led the consumer strategy and innovation, digital marketing for Disney Star Network. I've also led product strategy for Sprinkler globally. So now I am consulting, teaching, and writing. That's about me.
That's very exciting, Venki, and I'm sure we are going to hear more from your experiences, and we'll know you more as the webinar progresses. Okay, so let's start. I think it's going to be a very exciting set of insights that we believe we are going to get through this webinar. Let's start with the bullseye: marketing latency, which we call as the silent killer of efficiency, in the sense that if I am thirsty now, uh, you can't wait for 3 days and then discover that, oh, there's some person called Abhijit who is thirsty and now we can offer him a drink. Well, that's more of a B2C example, but I'm sure in B2B as well, real-time insights significantly improve, the prospect to lead and the lead to closure metrics, besides saving cost and also adding more dollars to the table. So, Venki, based on your experience, can you sort of walk us through how live analytics can help orchestrate the campaigns with some examples as required?
Yeah, I mean, just to give you traditional GTM, if you were to look at it, it starts with analysis. You analyze, then you plan, then you execute, then you wait, and then you repeat. So this is what is the entire process that it goes, the traditional GTM. With AI coming in, now that entire process has been turned on its head. So you start with predicting, and then you execute, optimize, and scale in real time. So it makes a world of difference whether you're in B2B or in B2C, in terms of how you're able to reduce churn of customer churn, or increase lead conversion, increase customer lifetime value. All these are possible with this, because the AI powered GTM has actually kind of turned whatever we have learned of marketing on its head now. So no longer as a decision maker, you need to be sitting and analyzing reports and reports after reports, trying to arrive at that golden point and then hope it will work, because AI can do it. In terms of when there is a lot of tacit data available, and obviously risk of decisions going wrong is minimal. So that's one part. Second part is that in terms of examples, there are a lot of examples one can talk about. I saw a retailer who had sales and marketing and multiple departments. The data between departments was not flowing in. So basically, what was happening on the retail shop in the retail floor was not coming through into the marketing planning, efficiently. So what happens is that a lot of missed opportunities of actions that can be taken, because you have got the resources. It's a question of being able to prioritize and take actions. The moment the retailer was able to integrate the data between the retail POS and the marketing data, sales data, the moment these integration happened, they were able to look at the fast moving categories, which are what's happening, the kind of new expectations from customers, specific customer, micro customer groups who were showing particular interest. Also being able to study competitor data, which is coming from social and other signals. So be able to proactively create opportunities to test and scale. So that's a great example how GTM has got transformed through insights.
Oh, that's interesting. You touch base upon so many things. You talked about AI. I think the whole discussion, no discussion on marketing can happen without AI. I think it's bringing so much of disruption. And I love the point on breaking the silos within the departments and how technology can really, built on process can bridge that gap and then to bring all of that together to drive it. Let's deep dive a bit further into this, and for the sake of understanding the whole thing better, right? I have sort of created three scenarios, and I would like to take a bit of your quick bite of response on those, so that we dwell into a scenario and talk about it. Let's shift to B2C for a moment. That's more clearly understandable. Suppose that you are in the middle of a very high visibility event, and 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 all at a sudden there's a social chatter around a rival or a competitor brand that doubles within 10 minutes. So there's more buzz about happening about them. How does your team pivot in real time? Because you are right in the middle of event, almost assume like a Coldplay event.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've lived for every day for many years while during my stint with the leading broadcaster. So first of all, the whole point is that you should be able to track this. The tracking systems, setting it up, real-time tracking systems. Second thing is, volume doesn't it by itself is not a story. You need to look at the sentiment. What is the sentiment? Many a time we have seen huge volume coming in, but the sentiment was negative for the for the event or for the competitor or for your own brand. So one needs to be aware, check the sentiment, what's happening, and then look at the filters. Like what is a high volume? So for a large cricket match, 500 posts may not be high volume, but for a company which is having a say for example food product, even 10 tweets is a very high volume. So setting up those volume triggers is very important. Sentiment, I told you, the first thing. So once you identify these things and based on the narrative that is shaping for you, so for example it is a issue which is happening on in the event, which is in your control, which is actually getting the negative chatter. So the idea is to have the task force being able to communicate this information in time to the person who can take the action in the fastest possible time. So that is the second point out there. So for example, it is a scoreboard in which the graphic is not coming through properly. Now that's the problem, which is creating the negative chatter. Now the point is that you need to be able to communicate this to the graphics team. No point in trying to create a chaos by telling 100 other people, but not telling that person who actually can change that graphic. So having that process, identifying the process where these things are happening, and then optimizing that further. Another scenario where, say, for example, a competitor brand is doing an activity and which is getting a lot of traction on your part. So when you look at that, and if it is, say, for example, if it's your OTT platform downloads or OTT platform mentions which are getting affected, you may shift your budgets from, say, certain awareness campaigns into a different budget where you can build on more on call to action, which can be pushed further on that part. Or a third scenario could be you can look at your own influencers who are there, okay, who can start building a counter narrative to the situation. So that's how you respond to the real time situations. And sometimes you don't really do anything, because if you know the triggers, and if it is a live event and live sports event, these are very passion led things. People respond to what's happening on the ground, and you don't need to respond to everything that is happening on the ground in the match. There are moments which will go up and down. So this comes through how you can observe and set up those action points, triggers.
Understand. Okay, so almost like like very contrasting strategies, from one end where you get a signal, you then decide not to act upon it, because that's and you still stick to your game plan. You just continue doing what you are
Absolutely.
to
And
all the
that's
way.
where and that's where your volume benchmarks, your sentiment benchmarks, your contextual ability to contextualize it. That's very important. And some of these parts AI can do a brilliant job. Some of these parts you need the contextual understanding where a person with expertise will be able to do a better job than even an AI system can. So this is an area where human and AI should work together.
That's right. That's the AI human integration, which is very important at that stage. Good, interesting. So let's go to the second scenario now in the interest of time. So assume it's a quarter end, and the ABM, the account based marketing dashboard, shows a sudden research surge from, let's say, a mid-size mid-market SaaS firms in Australia and New Zealand as a market. Okay, so this is a search that you have experienced through your insights. How do you pivot your campaigns from that stage? Because you already have a sequence of campaigns set up, but now you have this trigger point.
Two ways to approach it. I'll say the non-AI way and the traditional way. Traditional way is that the moment you have seen that surge is happening from the, and when you look at B2B, there are always a finite set of competitors who are going after a finite set of clients, right? So therefore, you need to look at what is the search interest which is building on. And immediately, because you have in your product category or in your product offering, you have a similar capability, identify those particular resources. In this case, could be a PDF, a knowledge PDF. You quickly upload it on your website, which is actually tackling the same issue. Put some search money behind that, so your discoverability goes higher. As the competitor is being searched for on that area, you're able to get visibility, and you're able to convert the interest that the competitor has actually generated through their efforts to actually close it for yourself. This can be a one way to look at it. Second way is that an AI-led way is that where you actually are not involved. AI will automatically kind of redesign your web page or get the highlighted elements based on what is searching. It will be an AI-led search optimization that will happen on your own site, highlighting those points so that you will automatically be able to cut in. So this is a more newer trend that has come in, but I mean, most companies still who have not implemented AI-powered GTMs are in the prior one. So probably that's a way they can go.
That's interesting. So there's a manual process of approaching this, and then there can be AI-based tools. But of course, they come at some level of investment that you got to do something which can read the signal and then realign your entire customer journey accordingly. And today we have tools which are able to do that if you invest into them and set them up for this scenario, is it?
Absolutely. Start with intent data. Tools that can identify any kind of increase in intent, buyer intent that is coming in. If you can start identifying those signals, I think then you can start acting on that. And that's where the first step to embracing AI-powered GTM begins out there. I don't think it will be a choice in some time. Right now, we are talking about a choice of whether we should or not. But I don't think in a few months to a year down the line, companies will be having the choice to whether or not. And secondly, also, Abhijit, the other point that I want to kind of talk about is that it's not about the tool. It's not just about the tool. I have seen numerous companies who have invested a lot of money in getting the right tool, but do not have the expertise to kind of implement it. So the tool by itself will not, get up and start doing the magic for you. The magic is also is in implementation and customization. Having the right partner to be able to do that. That's important. In addition to having the right tool.
Absolutely. We have seen so many of our own clients, and prospects that there are so much of investment globally done into the tools, but not really leveraged to the capacity. So the tool is also evolving. So the beauty here is everybody is moving in this MarTech space. So you got to really be able to have the right skill set to be able to leverage that, to your advantage. That's interesting. Okay, so third scenario. Now it's about collaborative branding. How many times have we not seen a brand ambassador of a brand suddenly getting into some sort of negative publicity, and then as a brand you are very tightly associated, and you can't unwrite it, you can't clean up the World Wide Web so easily, and that may not also be a best practice. So if there is a negative hashtag which starts trending, let's say about a partner brand that you are advertising along with, Now, how do you contain that? What sort of strategies do we have in mind? Because it's the more digital you go, the more this is going to hit you actually.
Yeah, and social media is a home for ranters as well. So, and a negative tweet can get a quicker traction than a positive tweet. Your positive stories take labor and effort to build, time to build, but the negative stories get a traction much more quickly, and therefore brands need to watch out. And as I said, in the past, we had set up something called as distillery, which is a real time a command center which actually analyzes data real time and is able to highlight those trends, both positive and negative, what's going, what's not going. So that kind of setup is very important for brands who are very serious about understanding the consumer and the consumer conversations, which way they are moving, and therefore how they can purpose their brand narratives in aligned to the consumer chatter. So that's step one. Step two is going to be, as I said before, uh, see, if it is influencer led, like say brands now have a lot of influencers, a thorough check needs to happen before you onboard an influencer. If an influencer is going off topic, it may not be the first time he's going off topic. He might have done it many times before. It's except that you went for the name and you didn't really check his entire history, what he's been doing that. So I think that thorough vetting is important. How brand compliant is the influencer? That's a very important thing to look at. And the third thing is that even if it's so there are tools which are available, for you able to do that kind of a check. And the third part is that once he's brand compliant, and say for example, he's spoken about some controversial topic, and controversies, anything can be a controversy today, and anything can be taken as a controversy because a lot of sensitivities are not just in India, globally, everywhere there's the same case. So the moment that happens, so one needs to kind of again relate back, is the chatter limited to the celebrity? Is the chatter having an impact on the brand? If it is limited to the celebrity, watch it. The moment it starts impacting your brand, understand the impact of the brand and take corrective actions which are there. And these corrective actions could be, and and the point is that today geographically, boundaries are broken. Though we in this particular space, an event that happens somewhere in China will have a repercussion in US, and something can happen in US can have a repercussion in India. So therefore, the boundaries don't really matter. So you need to understand the direction of travel of chatter and intensity of chatter and how the sentiment is changing. And you need to kind of come up with the response strategies accordingly. I wrote a book on this particular subject, so I can talk very extensively. It's called The Indestructible Brand, Crisis Management in the Age of Social Media. And so one of the things that I tell brands is that set up a playbook. Do not think that nothing will go wrong. Every brand, whichever space you are in, you need to evaluate what if something goes wrong, what all things can go wrong, create those scenarios, set up a crisis squad, comprising of multiple team members. It's not just a marketing or a CRM area alone now. Legal, HR, multiple decision makers, and sometimes the CEO's office, however senior may need to get involved, because the implications can be so severe depending on the categories. Again, category specific. I mean, we have seen many airlines who overnight the stock prices have come 6 to 7% down due to one incident in one single plane. So that is the kind of impact that crisis situations can happen. Set up those scenarios and set up the playbook and be prepared with the compliant responses that you can activate at a short notice. It is, so that is the third part of the preparation that one needs to be able to do it. So this is the way you will approach a negative chatter. I mean, as I said before, every negative tweet need not be a danger situation, right? But not watching negative tweets can create a situation which will put you in danger. That's the point.
That's interesting. Now, while we put this whole crisis management thing, sort of council that you said we can do that, is there anything that can be done or that is being done as a little more proactively, which sort of puts a legal framework, sort of PR guidelines or something, as an extension of that play group, right?
Yeah, it's the legal part, S&P, standards and practices, clearances are all part of this. So
Okay.
even your compliant responses, they need to be cleared off. Or if the response is not out of that, the situation is out of that, the task force is working there, because you need to respond in sometimes within minutes, within hours. It really depends on situations. So you need these people to work in tandem to be able to deliver that response to consumer. Not responding to a situation is more dangerous than responding without without preparing. Both can be equally dangerous. But not responding is not really an option today. Though there are situations which you may get away with not responding, but it's better to study, and after a studied not response is a better option rather than hoping that this will go away. Therefore not responding.
Understood. A conscious not responding versus
Yeah, absolutely.
your inability to respond are two different things actually, or your
Inability
lack
or
of
saying that,
preparedness.
yeah, there's no point in let's just wait, it'll go away on its own.
Yes,
I've seen
understood.
many companies do that and end up in a lot of trouble.
I see. That's
And
interesting.
being very transparent is important. I think most important thing is that today with AI and with information being available anywhere, everywhere, data flowing seamlessly, nobody can think that they can hide stories. So therefore, transparency, any brand owes transparency to its customers. So brands which are sincere and transparent actually win. And that's why I call it the indestructible brand, because brands are built over years of labor. They can remain indestructible as long as they have the trust with the consumers. And the trust will not go away due to one or two incidents. As long as the brand is acting transparently, that's the key.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. So I think I'm shifting the topic back to the real-time insights now. I do realize that we have some very smart audience who is attending it, and we do have a Q&A session towards the end of this webinar, and we'll try to devote more time for that. I'm going to now run a small poll for the audience, a very, very short one. Okay, the poll is out on the screen where I speak about it, right? So that's fine. So we are talking about what are the most limiting, things that sort of prevent you or slow you down from turning live data into revenue driving activities. So I'm just reading it out for you again. Which of these hurdles most limit your ability to turn live data into revenue driving actions? Now you can choose one, you can choose more. If you choose all four, then I would probably say that choose the top two, so that we have a context here, and we will also pick up some brain of Vinky onto this topic. Okay, so we'll give uh, maybe 1 minute for audience to respond to this. Okay.
That's a interesting poll, huh? Which limits your ability to turn live data into action? Data, activation, talent, or governance? Wow, nice.
So we have quite a few responses, and I think uh, it's activation which has got the highest percentage of people voting, and then is data. Of course, all three are important. Obviously, it's not one against another, but just trying to understand how we think actually. So Venki, oh yeah, I can see the poll here now. I don't know if you guys are also able to see. So it's activation and data as the primary things. And so Venki, if you can take a moment to first walk us through what each one of it in this context, what sort of impact each one of these can potentially cause, and then if you were to choose two, just like the audience, what would be the two you would choose and why?
I'll start with that and then go into each of these things. I mean, my choice will be, of course, data, definitely, because there's no oil, there's no way to run move the machine. So data is the oil, and therefore, without data, you can't do it. So data will be my primary thing. Second thing is talent for me. Almost equally is the talent, because without the right talent, you can't activate, you can't govern. So therefore, data followed by talent. So data, when I say data, is all the signals that you can get from all your touch points. Whether it is sales, marketing, CRM, whatever touch points that you have, whatever data that you are able to getting that data. Then second part is the talent. In terms of people who can make sense of the data, it could be teams within organizations. It could be, marketing partners such as Targetorate or any other agency partners that they have, talent with the products that they are using. So that is going to be the second part, talent, which will be there, which is able to contextualize the data, contextualize and understand the data, the context of the data. So that is the talent. Third part naturally is the activation, because having data, having talent, what are you going to do about it? So you need to, bring in the right kind of activations. Here is where I'm saying there is disruptive changes that are happening with AI. Wherever there is tacit data that is available, AI is able to kind of minimize the role of, lot of hands-on talent, limiting it to the ability of, the more mature, contextually aware decision makers being involved, but execution is, therefore the activation is becoming automated. Though that's the big change that is happening. Governance, I won't say it is the fourth most important, it is a hygiene. Many a times, we don't talk about hygiene, because if hygiene is not there, then you know what happens. So if you don't have a governance framework, you can do, your data collection can go wrong, your talent, what they do can go wrong, and your activation will not have the right guardrails. So I don't say governance is not important. Governance is hygiene. So it is all pervading. But that's the way I would try to approach it.
Okay, makes sense. And I'm sure audience is also going to agree with what you said. I think that's very good perspective. So continuing the journey on AI, right? Now I know you personally that you have been sort of plugging in AI both in the consumer as well as the enterprise platforms, right? So a couple of questions in that regard, right? Where do you think AI will shape, the most time off in a GTM launch, both in a B2B and a B2C scenario?
Yeah. So say, for example, a marketing plan development, plan development today, your research, I call it the idea framework: insight, design, execute, amplify. There are four pillars to framework, and I do workshops based on this, AI marketing workshops. So insight, design, execute, and amplify. At all these four stages, AI can dramatically reduce time. And not only reduce time, but it can actually sharpen your focus. I'm not 1% discounting the role of human genius or human creativity, which is very essential to marketing. But many a time we are very, very research dependent. We are looking for that nugget of insight before we can do anything in marketing. So I think it can make your time to insight very, very fast, quicker, sharper. So once your insights are sharper, then your planning can be a lot more on the spot, as to be able to deliver. Then, and even in creative, for example, using AI, you can even develop scripts, but that is predictable. AI powered scripts can be highly predictable. But many a time, if you look at 90% of the or 80% of the advertising that comes out anywhere in the world, it's very predictable. So I think you can straight away aim at what can given, and your benchmark will be, let me beat this with a human genius. How can I actually beat that bar of creativity? So therefore, the creative judgment and ability to push your creative higher and better can be achieved with that. Then again, in terms of execution and in terms of amplification, it will be much, much more faster. As I gave you an example of search, how AI powered search is actually automating the entire SEO part. It is becoming like that. Similarly, at different parts of the marketing funnel, AI is automating these parts which are coming in. So your GTM is becoming much more. It's at the speed of your thought. GTM is. So that is the big change it is bringing in a B2C scenario. Again, B2B scenario, I think I've already spoken about this, but I'll again kind of re-emphasize that it is able to, your intent data is, you're starting with intent data, you're unifying data by breaking all the silos between sales, marketing, CRM. You've got all that in one place. Your automated decision making in B2B scenario, it is very, very important. Like the example that you asked me of which is happening. Imagine an automated decision making. You won't even know that such a scenario with the computer is happening, and you're able to act on it. And if you're able to convert 50 leads in that particular point of time, it's a huge, huge difference that will make for your monthly budgets, which are going to be there. And the last point is that fourth thing I would only advise is that scale gradually. Just don't get tempted by that. So many things can be done gradually, one channel at a time. Implement, prove ROI, and scale to other channels. This is the B2B approach.
Yes, I like the last one you said, one channel at a time scaling. I think
Yeah.
it makes so much of sense that you mature through one and then open up the others, on this
Because
aspect.
there's a lot of challenges involved. I mean, it all looks quite sexy to talk about, AI doing everything, but many a time, I've seen a lot of marketers who are disillusioned with AI also, or disillusioned with in a fast-paced GTM implementation with tools that promise a lot in a presentation, but are not able to actually deliver at the time of into the customer and implementation. Having spent millions of thousands of millions of dollars procuring the tools, I've seen customers just sitting on it, not able to do anything. Therefore, I'm saying is that when you are scale gradually, implement, prove ROI at every particular point of time, and then scale it up.
Makes sense. So be aggressive, be ambitious, but then also be realistic in terms of how you can move about, right? So
Absolutely.
if you were to be, so if you take up a new CMO role or for a product company, or if you were consulted by a CMO, what would be your priority investments in terms of AI integration? Where would you probably do it? I think it's a sort of very subjective based on the maturity of the company, but are those in the context of marketing? Are there any low hanging fruits that you think that a company which is at an early stage of adoption for AI, these are 2-3 things that you would probably suggest them to focus in the first 1 month or two?
Yeah.
You can always answer for both B2B and B2C as well. Sorry.
No, I think it's kind of one answer for both. In this case, what I will say, it's a very simple way to look at it. And actually, it's not my model. This is Professor Bharat Anand from Harvard. He's actually given a fantastic model, and I happened to see that. I thought that was a great way to approach it. So it's all about data. What is the kind of data that is available? Tacit data. If you have tacit data availability and risk of a decision going wrong, the risk is lower. That is a place where you will implement AI quickly. So, for example, CRM data. It is tacit data. You've got all the records which are there, whatever has happened, all the interactions, it's all stored out there. So that part using AI to automate is, and the risk of things going wrong is at one customer at one particular point of time, which is in an organizational context. I mean, in terms of what things can go wrong, it's not really the biggest of losses that can happen. But there you can start implementing because you have got the data repository. Tacit data is available. You can go ahead and start implementing in that particular space. Other part is that where you have a lot of tacit data available, but the risk of decision going wrong is very high. For example, legal data. Again, you have a lot of data available, but will you use AI to draw your contract completely? Will you rely on that? No, because that can actually put you in things can go wrong later on. So though the tacit data is available, you will cautiously approach that part. A third area where tacit data is not available, but still uh, you can be more proactive in embracing AI. For example, creativity, campaign planning. You may not have all the tacit data available out there. Creative judgment is not going to come in. But that's where a contextually aware creative person or a marketing executive is able to use AI smartly, as the example that I've given you before, can actually work on. And the fourth quadrant, which I'll talk about, is that where tacit data is not available and the risk is also very high. For example, if you want to design a aircraft engine or design a new software for your company, I mean, you will not use AI to completely be rely on that. So I think this is how you can simply approach by looking at this data availability, risk of decision going, the cost of that, and take decisions on that, whether you're a B2B or a B2C company.
Yes, that's actually a very good framework for all of us to leverage, when we make choices on where to invest into AI and to what degree, very importantly, right? So it can't be a fully automated stuff in some cases. So continuing the journey on the operational aspects, right? Because end of it, it's all about who will build the cat. It's all about closing that gap between the cup and the lip, right? So, and models are great, but the leadership wants results yesterday. So we all are always pressed against time. So operationally, to make sure that we are first time right, what are those essential steps that you think a team has to take in the context of gaining real time insights into the daily actionables to be able to accelerate the process of influence on the revenue?
So I think, see, main point out here is insights are, so data is there everywhere. You're getting a lot of information. Is the information, is it information or an insight? That's the first part. We are all having an information overload. You need to be able to screen to get to the insight. So it is good to have an insight squad or a cross-functional team which can actually look at the signals that are coming in, and it could be a daily or a weekly stand-up where you can come together and kind of sift from the noise the insight, or pick up the signal from the noise. That's very important. And point to what direction, what can this insight change, which part of the thing. So that's the first part, to be able to do that. Every tool, every product out there today shouts actionable insights, but doesn't mean by buying that product you're going to get actionable insights. So insight, being able to take decisions on insight, is actually a ritual companies need to adapt to. The moment a CEO shows commitment to that, the entire organizations fall in line. And say for example, if a CEO start looking at these signals and is asking the squad to come and report him on a weekly basis, there's a ritual and there's a discipline that goes to the entire organization to start looking at that signals rather than intuition. Otherwise, it will be the decision. These people who are being led by intuition, trying to do things, intuition or by the conditioning. This happened 10 years ago, it actually worked like that. I've got a 20 years experience, therefore it should be done like that. Now, these are all the bad habits experience actually kind of blindfolds you towards. So the moment you adapt these positive rituals of an insight squad or an insight stand-up that you're having, where the CEO or the a CMO, a CXO buy-in is there to that, it sends a very positive signal to the rest of the organization to take this data seriously. So that's the first part I will to start with. Second part is, as I said, again, once you start doing this, automatically you start breaking silos, because when you look at insight, it could cater to any department. So the moment every department is getting covered, they'll all be on alert. Automatically it'll start breaking silos. So then now we are decision making at this level is being done through the top level. But the moment the organization gets into the habit, at even the middle managers start taking decisions, data driven decisions. So that becomes the habit. While data is available, but how many companies are actually making data driven decisions? So that's the whole point. So we all like to talk about that we have data, but are you making decisions based on the data? That's the question every CXO needs to introspect. How much of data-driven decision making are we making? And connected to that, in certain areas, you can, once you implement a AI-driven process, AI-driven GTM in this case, you'll be able to automate certain decisions. And then you start looking at the resultant impact. How much have you convert? And I've seen companies which have embraced this, within 6 months have been able to report a convergence which are about 8 to 10% increase in conversions which are happening on their systems. Customer lifetime value starts increasing. So those decisions automatically start happening. So that's the path I would recommend.
Yes. And I think you touch based on something very interesting. It's like it's like a legacy of a thought process being challenged by data and the cascading insights from there, right? What metrics can we use uh, to 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 build this narrative and get an executive buy-in towards this? Because we are sometimes challenging somebody's history of thought process and the results are etc, right? So but data speaks a lot. What are those typical metrics that you measure as part of that ritual?
So again, this is not one size fits all. There'll be different metrics for different activities. So as I told you before about CRM as an activity, okay, and this is a situation we looked at in one of the companies that I was working in. We had up to 400 agents who were working on, and there was an enormous caseload that was there. By implementing simple machine learning, we were able to automate junk, certain things which do not respond. So that reduced the caseload by about 8%. That itself, that one machine learning to automate workflow actually helped reduce that. Then the moment you start looking at embracing AI, to be able to send responses, smart responses, which are already, as I said, you're contextually aware, tacit data is available, you're able to do that. You can reduce your load by as much as 75% of your agent load. So you're showing clear savings. One advantage to the customer, his time to response becomes faster. Therefore, your CSAT is going to go up. Your consumer satisfaction is going to go up. Second thing is that your costs are going to, and every CFO is going to be more than happy with that. So that's how you prove to all the three parties: your customer, your internal finance, as well as your own efficiencies, your CSAT, and your metrics which are there. That in the case of CRM that you can do. Similarly, as I told you in terms of lead generation, if you're doing this in a lead generation scenario, if you're doing automating that, you look at your efficiency in lead generation going up, or your time, your ability to sift through quality of leads, predict conversions, all this goes up. So resultant metrics, you can start looking at that. So it is the area that you're trying to look at, where you're trying to implement AI or AI-led GTM, and look at those metrics that you can actually get that. And it's very important to have certain metrics, because without that, and I have seen many companies who have adapted these things as shiny ball syndrome. Oh, we are using AI. We are also using AI. But what have you done with that? We are using it. What does it mean? So it's just a shiny ball syndrome. You're just trying to be cool that I am also doing it. But then you need to actually look at the specific metrics where the needle actually starts moving in. Then you can start either increasing investments or reducing it. Choice of tools, choice of partners, it becomes that. That's the reason why I say start small. I mean, you should be very ambitious, but start one channel at a time and keep growing.
Makes sense. So I think we are left with almost 1 minute to go for this webinar. So let's see if we have got any questions from the audience. Okay. So we still have 1 minute to take questions. Okay. So I'll read out. There's a very, very long question, but I don't know, Venki, if you are able to see it, but I'll read it out for everybody. What signs, SIG and signs, should teams look for to know if marketing latency or not using the automation, etc., is costing them revenue? In any form. It could be using automation can reduce manpower cost, or using automation may help them detect leads or deals that they may be missing out, etc.
Yeah. So I think it's a very good question. In terms of see, what I say is that the question isn't whether AI will, automation will transform your GTM or not. It already has. So there is no question on that. The question is whether you will lead the transformation in your industry or your category, or will you be disrupted by your competitor? That's the whole point. So the choice is completely yours, therefore, to do that. So in that case, you have to first embrace. You'll definitely make mistakes. Be prepared. I mean, be prepared to make mistakes, and that's the whole point of leading to success. But then, when you have, say, for example, the right partners with you, your tool selection also will be right, because you will be able to you will be able to utilize learning across multiple categories. And second part is that implementation discipline and rigor. As I told you, time and again, that is where companies have failed. It is not about their intent of going after AI. It is about their approach towards implementing the GTM motion. That is where they've gone wrong, or they have to improve in those areas. I hope this addresses the question.
Yes, I hope so. And I think we'll just take one more, and I think we're already running out of time. We already ran out of time, in other words. So the question is, what's the most underrated AI use case that marketing team should consider while adopting first?
What's
Most underrated use case? AI use case. What's the most underrated AI use case? So I'm assuming that something which is significant, but we often tend to sort of undermine that.
I think insight mining is the most underrated use case because we all are so intelligent that we have our hunches and things. We refuse to look at data even if the data is staring in our face.
Yes, 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 that's true. That's true. Our self comes in between
Exactly.
reading the right insights and then what I think. Okay, that,
Absolutely.
that's
I mean,
true.
it's right out there, and you will not even realize that you're blinded by your own
That's
bias.
That's right. All right. I think this was a very, very stimulating discussion. The questions were good, and I think we covered a very wide range of topics from how to address market latency, how to respond to external trigger points midway through, how do we act swiftly on the intent surge, or how do we do crisis management, and integrate AI into the GTM system, the operationalizing things. And I think it's been wonderful. I think so Venki, thanks a lot to the audience at first place for listening into this. We will be sharing a video recording of this with all of you so that you can go through it at leisure. Feel free to share as well. And Venki, is very special thanks to you for taking time and sharing this invaluable insights. So this definitely is a booster for us to go through the book that you have written. So I'm going to order it, and I'm sure many more are going to do that. So we'll drop the book name as well as part of the follow-up communication to the audience for further reading. And we will have more of such things coming up. So stay tuned for more to come our way. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.